Meanwhile, one of the most gripping mysteries of recent times has been solved. We're talking about the Croydon cat killer, thought to be responsible for maybe hundreds of dismembered felines in South London. Today, police have announced there is no Croydon cat killer, not in human form anyway. There have been 3 years of investigation, CCTV's been looked at, dozens of pet post-mortems, DNA analysis has been done, and Scotland Yard says there is no evidence a human was involved in the deaths. They say the injuries inflicted on the cats were likely to be the result of scavenging by wildlife on cats killed in vehicle collisions. In other words, something like a fox has taken apart the bodies of cats who've already been run over. In November 2015, reports emerged of mutilated bodies of cats being found in and around Croydon. Their heads and tails had apparently been removed. The fear was that a psychotic human killer was on the loose and could strike again. It wasn't long before more people came forward, and all over London and the home counties, the body count went up to 400. Someone put a £10,000 reward up to catch the Croydon cat killer. Celebrities like Martin Clunes weighed in, appealing for help. But now the Metropolitan Police, who've been looking for forensic evidence of human involvement and a pattern to the deaths, say there was no crime. The cats were just victims of cars and foxes. And not everyone is satisfied. We have a cat owner, Samantha Brown, telling reporters that a fox could certainly not have inflicted the injuries she saw on her cat called Harley.
Police called and informed us that Harley had been involved in an incident that they did not believe was a road traffic accident, and his body was sent to the vet and it was later examined, and his injuries that he sustained were not the result of a fox or a car. His tail was sliced cleanly off by an instrument, and he had blunt force trauma to the head. Unless a fox has opposable thumbs and can hold a mallet and a knife, there is no way that Harley could have been the victim of a fox.
So one of the upset cat owners, Chris Packham, is on the phone, zoologist and fox expert. Do you buy the police's explanation, Chris?
I do, but I do understand why so many people are upset and why this investigation has taken place. Cats, as companion animals, form very close bonds with their owners and vice versa, and when something traumatic like this happens to their pet, they are understandably very upset and they want some answers. But Stephen Harris, who's a retired professor from the University of Bristol, said in July of this year that this phenomena was a case of moral panic which has instigated the police investigation, and that he suspected then that this was road traffic accidents and that the foxes were scavenging. And I have to say, I was very disappointed coming home last night when I saw that the police had made this announcement, and on the front of newspapers there were lots of pictures of foxes, because what is being said here is that the foxes are scavenging these animals. It's not a case of the foxes going out and killing them. That would be a very, very rare event.
But we are getting accounts of cat owners saying, well, hang on, the bones were arranged in a way that suggested some sort of ritual killing and almost an intelligence behind it.
Well, I suppose if we've got 400 incidences, there could have been a number, maybe a small number of those, where there was some human involvement. And we know that there were macabre individuals that show scant regard for animal welfare and show little respect for them. So perhaps, again, they recovered the bodies of these cats that had been unfortunately hit by traffic, and maybe they, in a very malevolent way, arranged them like that. But, I mean, I haven't seen all of the files. The one thing that I'm desperate to point out here is that, portraying the fox as the culprit here is not what the police have revealed. It's not what Stephen Harris and I believe is the case, and it's not a reputation that we want to continue to erode. The poor old fox has got enough problems as it is. They're declining in our countryside, doing quite well in our cities, but they're declining in our countryside, and we've still got people chasing around and tearing them pieces with dogs. So we're trying to make sure that we take a very objective and scientific view of the fox's behaviour.
Thank you very much, Chris Packham, zoologist and fox expert. The Radio 2 policeman, Peter Blexley, is with us as well. And I've noticed today people laughing at the police, saying, oh, this is ridiculous waste of money to have investigated it. Do you think that's fair?
Well, it just goes to show that sometimes he who shouts loudest will be heard, because when we have families who are who have a family member who is murdered, for example, and they launch a very strident and vocal campaign to get more resources and time and effort ploughed into a murder investigation, and they get an MP on board and all that kind of stuff, then you see that those voices do get heard. It has an influence on the police. They respond to the media pressure. You start getting column inches and airtime, and then the police are forced down a path of conducting an investigation.
And in that context, Peter, we probably should say that the media do love to create a narrative and they call somebody the Croydon cat killer. They say there's 400 cases, and actually maybe there wasn't one ever.
I think that's highly likely in this case. And let's face it, on this show before, I've called the police into question, called them to account and to justify what they've done. But here, I'm willing to trust the forensics. The forensics here seem to be quite conclusive to point out that it's blunt force trauma from road accidents and then scavenging subsequent to that. If, of course, there had been a human being responsible for all these mutilations and feline deaths, that would have been an extremely worrying thing.
Yes, it would, because they would then go on to something else, you think?
The criminal history books are littered with examples of where people in their younger years, their formative years, have been cruel or maybe have even killed animals, and they then go on to commit murder.
Thank you very much, Peter Bleksley, Radio 2 policeman, talking about the Croydon cat killer, which possibly isn't.